think about it. You are the child of the Most High God. You are not a slave to persecution. You are not a slave to incarceration. You are not a slave to unemployment. You are no longer a slave to depression. You are no longer a slave to cancer. You are no longer a slave. Okay, so this one SP. I'm back again for another video. I'm back again for another video. I'm back again for another video. How to unlock success through purpose. The first way to unlock success, you can't have purpose while knowing exactly who you are. Yeah. So who am I? You gotta have an identity. Scripture tells us, so you are no longer a slave, you are God's child. And since you're God's child, you are also an heir. And by you being an heir or God's child, just think about this. When you're in God's presence and you have that encounter with God, you also have a new name, a new identity. Just remember, when Saul was persecuting Jews and Christians, he took an actual trip to Damascus. And on his trip to Damascus, he was blinded and he was healed. But while he was healed, his name changed from Saul to Paul. So he had a new identity, a new name. Just think about Abram. Before Isaac was even born, his name was Abram. After Isaac was born, he became the father of nations, and his name became Abraham. Same for Sarai. She became Sarah, the queen of all nations, or the princess of all nations. Just think about that. Even Peter himself, he became Simon after the Lord washed his feet. So everyone has a new identity once they have that encounter with God. So just think about it. Like if you identify yourself as, let's say, an American or Canadian, African, Asian, or Hispanic, white, whatever you wanna call yourself as far as being here on this earth, then you have that mindset where you're not using your full ability, your full potential. You have more than that to offer. Just think about it. You are the child of the Most High God. You are not a slave to persecution. You are not a slave to incarceration. You are not a slave to unemployment. You are no longer a slave to depression. You are no longer a slave to cancer. You are no longer a slave to anything that could make you feel that you are less than who you really are. So the first step to knowing about your purpose is your identity. This one is deep. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. It's time for a crusade. It's too easy. Let's get it. I'm back again for the next video. This is about how to unlock success with purpose or through purpose. And you don't know what your purpose is unless you know what your identity is. The question of the day or right now should be, who am I? Who are you? Who exactly are you? Scripture tells us that you are no longer a slave. And since you are no longer a slave, you're God's child. And by you being God's child, you are also an heir. So think about that for a moment. Think about what enslaved you: depression, incarceration, unemployment. Think about all these things. Cancer, any kind of ailment, any kind of ache in your body, any kind of thing that makes you feel like you're struggling with life. Anything like that. You are no longer a slave of that. Just remember, There was a time in the Bible when Abram was Abram in the Bible. And after Isaac was born, he became Abraham. He had a new identity through God. When you have that encounter with God, you have a new identity. He puts a new name on you. He gives you a new actual identity. He stamps it on you, just like any birth. You know, a parent gives the child a new identity, a identity of birth. They authorize it, and that's what God authorized for you. Just like Peter, when Yeshua, the Messiah, actually washed the feet of Peter, he became Simon. Just like we can even go into Paul. Remember when he was persecuting Christians and everything, he was called Saul. On his road to Damascus, he was blinded. And when he was healed from that blindness that he had that moment, he became Paul. One of the biggest leaders of the grace movement. You know, one of the biggest leaders, Apostle Paul of Tarsus. So that is a new identity. And you too can have a new identity in your purpose. All you gotta do is have that encounter with God. All you gotta do is have that one-on-one time with God, that intimacy with God. And you will have a new identity. You would no longer be classified as the person that could not recover from unemployment. You would no longer be that person that could not recover from cancer. You would no longer be classified as that person that could not recover from depression, suicide, whatever that is enslaving you right now. You would no longer be classified as that. And if you only identify yourself as American, or you only identify yourself as white, black, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, if you only identify yourself as that, then that's also a part of the problem, because guess what? You're not using your full potential. You're not using your full abilities, because you're not identifying yourself as a child of the Most High God, as a child of the Most High Allah, as a child of the Most High Yeshua, as a child of the Most High Yahweh or Jehovah. Whatever you wanna classify yourself as, just make sure that you put royalty in it. Wear your crown. So this one that's deep, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. It's time for a crusade. It's too easy. Let's get it.